Welcome back to R-Type Final 3. So think I'm going to change a little bit about how I've been doing things, because I may have found a way that makes it a little bit easier on me. See, if you go into the shop and scroll down, and I don't think this existed before, or at least it did when it didn't when I first started playing the game on my own, but it did exist when I started the series. I just hadn't looked too far into it. But there are these tickets here. The arms warranty, wave acceleration, auxiliary armament, and a dose break. So these tickets cost an amount of R coins, 8,000 for this one, 6, 7, 5,000. But you can then use them in playing the game to give yourself a bit of an edge. The arms warranty ticket here, as an example, lets you keep all your power-ups if you die. And this is not very useful in the score attack mode. In fact, I don't even think it lets you use it in the score attack mode. But if you're playing through the story mode, this will let you have a pretty alright time. Wave acceleration means you charge up your wave cannon faster. The auxiliary armament means you always have 2 bits. And the dose break means you always have a full dose gauge. Or maybe you start a stage with a full dose gauge. I haven't really talked much about what the dose gauge is, because I haven't really had the opportunity to use it, given that I've been playing through on score attack. The dose gauge, as some of you have seen, is a little gauge in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen that slowly fills up. It actually fills up as you destroy things with your force. Not the beams it shoots out, but the physical force itself. It also charges up as you block bullets with it. Just anything that the force interacts with will build that gauge up. When it's full, you can hit a button to do effectively a screen clear. It kind of depends ship to ship what it does, but usually it's just a simple screen clear. The only problem is on score attack mode, you always start with an empty dose gauge, and it's very difficult to get it filled up by the end of the stage, so I haven't really found a reason to try. But playing through proper story mode, this may be useful. That said, I have purchased one of these, and I don't have enough coins to buy like 1 billion of these. But I have checked. And we can go through the hangar, and today I'm going to start off with the R9E3 Sweet Luna. You can start off on the Homage Stage Course 1, and it will let you play through the entire way. It doesn't only limit you to 1 and 2. You can kind of consider 3 and 5 as shortcuts into it. Now, last time we finished playing through the X series, so we're about halfway through the content in the game. So let's take a look at the Y stages. And because I will now have access to continues, I'm going to play on normal. And then I can go in here, and I can enable retain power-ups after defeat at the cost of a coin. You get less bonus points, but I don't really care. That's not why I'm here. So I'm going to attempt to play through on normal again. In fact, maybe I should try a playthrough on Bido. I'll attempt to play through on Bio, because if I can, there is a bit of a prize for us later on. R9E3 Sweet Luna. Radome Endurance type. To increase radome endurance and ensure data collection, the radome was integrated into a fighter chassis. The force and wave cannon were strengthened, but manufacturing costs skyrocketed and very few were ever built. The Sweet Luna is a surveillance unit. It's designed to collect data, not to fight. Recon wave cannon. Scouting ability has been increased, no major changes except to the charge capacity and the scope shape. Camera Force 3, better laser control and wider range of attack angles. With these improvements, better ground reconnaissance can be carried out. And it comes with the special Camera Bit, data collection bit for fighters with early warning systems. Its data collection capacity is greater than most fighters, and it has rarely been used in combat. Otherwise, regular missiles. This is a unit that's good for collecting data, not for combat, so your actual fights are going to be a bit more difficult. However, it will also much more readily fill out your gallery and your Bito log. So it actually has a use for us, the player.
How are you feeling? Now, you are about to go into the start sequence. The start sequence has been completed. Are you ready to take off? Good luck.
Stage Y1, Azure Grotto. And the beginning of this stage is rough. Actually, this whole stage is rough, but specifically the beginning of this stage because you have no power-ups or anything with which to deal with everything going on here. Just like in the original game, these enemies are they're a danger because after you kill them, they become more dangerous by flying off at whatever angle at an increased speed. And when they do that, of course, they cannot be killed. Usually if they're moving diagonally, that's not too big a deal, but if you kill one while it's turning, it will fly straight at you. With no power-ups at the very beginning, you just have your little Vulcan cannon in order to deal with them, which makes it a little difficult. So I died several times at the beginning, just trying to get far enough to kill that first POW armor, so I could get a force. The force only helps so much there, because of course the enemies will fly right through it. But especially once you have some increased firepower, that also helps. The waterfalls here will shove you down, so be careful about being controlled within them. Now, on easier difficulties, these couple little sand-bound creatures on the far left don't come up, which is why I stayed down there thinking I was going to be safe, and instead died. We also get these weird Metroid-looking things that come down from the waterfalls, so the waterfalls are pretty much never safe, because you never know when one of those things is going to come flying down it. With all the sand-bound creatures coming out from underneath, this can be a chaotic area, because you can't actually deal with the enemies to get rid of them. And this comes up on one of the most complex parts of the stage then, where there is just a lot going on and very little you can do to stop it. It's this room and the next room, really. And your priority is going to be, of course, killing the things that you can kill, which are these little barnacles off the top and bottom. You can also hang far enough to the left, and if you kill that one sand-bound thing coming up, it was the last one, so I know then that I can move forward without having to worry about them coming up from behind anymore. I started using the charge shot at some point, just to help, because it is a surprisingly powerful shot, and it does a good job of just quickly removing something. This water walker now, I could not kill fast enough to get it out of the way. So what I ended up doing was going ahead of it, and just trying to play defensively, and getting a little bit lucky. Once you get out of this water, though, you're at your next checkpoint. So this particular DLC patch actually came with a mature content warning, and that is specifically for the boss. Which I'll add has actually been made better in the Western release. This is not a terribly difficult boss, but the turnaround is always pretty high when you die, because you go back a good screen or two and have to take care of a chain or two of enemies. And this makes... it actually makes learning take longer. I mean, obviously it makes learning take longer than it would because it's taking extra time. But because you're not immediately in the mindset anymore, you will make mistakes several times before you learn it, whereas you may only make that mistake once if you could jump right back in. That said, this boss does have kind of a pattern to him, and once you get the dance down, it's not a terribly hard boss. I did make a mistake here and get very lucky that I was able to go back over the top. But the big thing is when it gets to the left, center, or middle, it will lower. So you do not want to be underneath it when it does that. Otherwise, it just goes left and right, left and right. Do not get trapped on the left or right side of it. Pass under it. Don't pass over it. The electricity up top makes that kind of difficult. Like, it lowered and went back up, so that was my opportunity to rush over to the other side. TXT Eclipse. Variable Structure Prototype. Designed to measure the effects of speed change on the craft and the pilot. The transforming structure was experimental. As you change your speed, this craft will actually transform slightly, changing shape. This gave birth to a wide variety of other ships, including the OF series. Shockwave Cannon 2, based on the Shockwave Cannon, the charge volume was increased and an explosive chain ability was added. Tentacle Force, which we have seen before. A metallic tentacle is attached to the control rod. Using synapse relays, force energy is distributed through the tentacle. It features better laser control and defense. And then the regular bits and missiles. Mission 2, Stage Y2, Materialized Virtual Training Space. The first thing we have to do is die so I can change ships, and then go in with our new one. Now, I don't think I mentioned, but the previous stage was from R-Type 2, the cave. This stage is from Image Fight. Image Fight! Remember Image Fight? Now, of course, Image Fight is a vertical... Image Fight is a vertical game, so they did have to make some accommodations to fit in an homage stage. Specifically, they rotated the entire level to be a horizontal level. For the most part, this is, once again, not a terribly difficult level. There are a few places that can take you out of can catch you out of position. Maybe with something like a boulder or something coming from off-screen, if you're not prepared to deal with all of the missiles coming out of the cannons. Blue is pretty good in this stage, because the lasers can either bounce around or home in a pretty restricted area. Blue is, for the most part, is pretty good at the older style levels. This large enemy here has a shocking amount of health, and you will encounter him on multiple occasions. Sometimes you may not have the ability to take him down. The section coming up has lasers on the back side of something, and that does make dealing with a lot of what's going on more difficult. Also, the larger enemy, the larger, tankier enemy, is coming back once again. I found the easiest way because those lasers will cause problems, but you still want your force on the front because there's going to be a lot coming from the front. But I found the charge shot, with its area of effect, can hit them through the wall, which does a very good job of taking care of that, so that's something you don't have to worry about. This tanky guy, he has this attack, this laser. It's short range, but persistent. And with his health, he can be a genuine nuisance. Plenty of power-ups as we lead in to this monstrous boss. Many of the lasers simply home in on you, or all angle, and for the longest time I simply tried to dodge them, and I had very little luck just dodging them. Yet I tried to find safe spots or more opportune places to handle it and could not. So I thought, okay, I just have to get good, but with all the practicing, I still couldn't make it. I eventually looked up a few guides and I saw there's a safe spot up here, but I could not get the safe spot to work either. I don't know if it has been patched. Someone said it does still work, but it's very difficult to get into. And finally, I looked up a guide on how to fight him efficiently. So you have to line yourself up in the upper left-hand corner with something. Once it's extended, shoot your force out, and then just scoot yourself in. There's some minor dodging that you may still have to do here. So it's not 100% consistent, but given how many times I died up until then, I'll take 50.